So I would like to call that person next. So Keshav sir की जो speech थी, so we are all following not the company but the leader. So one of the most respected maritime leader जो मुझे लगता है, so मेरी अपनी choice है, you can take with a pinch of salt. At least Manning में, he is Mr. Manish Pradhan. तो किसी भी मूड के साथ इनके पास जाओ, मेरे ये दोस्त लोग बोले, मैं कभी उनके साथ काम नहीं किया है, कि किसी भी मूड से जाओ आप, मनीष प्रधान सर वो प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व कर देते हैं। नहीं सॉल्व करेंगे तो ऐसी कुछ बात करेंगे कि तुम भूल जाओगे किस प्रॉब्लम से तुम बात करने आए थे। So that is something that we try to develop as an entrepreneur ourselves. पता नहीं हो रहा है, सही हो रहा है, गलत हो रहा है, नहीं पता, बट ठीक है, कुछ तो हो रहा है। So I would like to invite Manish Pradhan sir on stage. I always look up when he is speaking, and because he sees over the most important aspect in a shipping company. आप अच्छा बोलना सर चाहते हैं, ठीक, क्योंकि मुझे काफी स्पीच सर की याद हो गई है। सर आइए।
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know, he's saying he's over at the moon. I think I'm over the moon because I think a lot of unreal things have been said. He said a pinch of salt, I see only salt. But I will only admit to one thing, that what I kept at the center of my life, being an engineer, the only dream we had was to become a superintendent and go into the technical side, look after ships, because as seafarers, when the superintendent came on board with his white boiler suit and white gloves, we thought he was God. And that was the kind of ambition we had. And then, a few strokes of luck, and I landed up with an offer of doing crewing. And since that was the best sounding offer then, as it was giving me an opportunity to stay back in Calcutta, I took it, and I am very proud to say I have no regret. My life has been seafarers, seafarers, and seafarers, and it's been an amazing journey, because I think I got more from the seafarers than I could give. I got a lot of love, I got a lot of support, and it's been an amazing journey. And that brings me to, I'm supposed to be speaking on managing the workforce, and that is within the ambit of what I do from morning to the end of the day. So before I start to speak on how do we manage the workforce, it's important to understand what is the workforce. So let's imagine this guy, say a second officer. He's on the bridge, 12 to 4. Vessel is anchored off Dubai. And he is probably 4 or 5 weeks over his contract. Unlike us, who have a surety in life that we're going back home tonight and we will be safe, he doesn't have that luxury. He's still hearing sirens of the alarms ringing around him. His family, which is a few time zones away, is worried whether he'll come back, when he'll come back, what's going to happen. All these things are going on. And he lives a life of fear, that I don't know what's going to happen to me. And one such life was 8099 Rohan Kumar. When things don't work your way, it can go as bad as that. Rohan, very unfortunate. I think we've observed silence for him. But there are so many more Rohans around us, or potential Rohans around us. And the latest circular from DG Shipping, I'm actually surprised that it is drawing a conversation on whether it is a good circular or not. It's actually, I was very surprised that there are still people who are worried about moving the cargo, making the money, and missing an opportunity, all of that. But that second officer on the bridge is our workforce. We could be talking about worksheets, I mean, your balance sheets, your new building orders, uh, trade, and everything under the sun, manufacturing, production, shipping, shipbuilding, ship repair. But who's at the center of that is our dear seafarer. If that man does not stand his watch, everything else is secondary. I've heard some great speakers today, especially Commodore Sir. You have opened my eyes so wide open. But then at the center of it is the operator, which is the seafarer. Everything else is the hardware. The software is the human being who uses his human skill to get your registers from red to black and look good and all of that. So this is the workforce we are talking about. One is the uncertainty. And the other disturbing fact is criminalization. Hundreds and millions and billions of seminars all around the world talking about these things. But I would like to ask what really changed. And sadly, I don't see too much. It is still a fact, whereas the law, global law is you are innocent till proven guilty. For the seafarer, it doesn't work like that. He is guilty till proven innocent. So if there is an imminent oil spill or if there is anything that's reported, first thing is arrest the ship, arrest the people. I am handling a difficult case myself with the Dali, and I have no qualms in speaking about it, that even today 11 people are still in the United States. I don't want to give a judgment here, but we saw the crash, the Air India crash, right? So there was a Boeing aircraft. People, the easiest thing to do was to say that the pilot switched it off. Why has the truth not come out? Because there is some humans versus Boeing. The Dali had the first blackout because of a loose wire. The NTSB report says that. So why are the people still being interrogated? Because it's Hyundai versus the poor seafarers. Since the matter sub judice, I'll leave it there. But then, coming back, who is suffering? It's the seafarer. What this second mate, who eventually would come back home after 4-6 weeks of an overtime, what is his mental state? Is he coming back with good memories? Is he going to be sending good messages to his friends? Would he like to leave his family again to go back into the Strait of Hormuz? These are all challenges with which we are not talking about. We're only looking at life today. Is the ship moving? Not moving. What impact it is having on these seafarers is not even being discussed. We don't know whether he would even give up shipping 1 year later. Talk to the people who have been through piracy captures. You will know what it takes to go back to sea after you suffer an incident like that. I salute those people. But how much of it is in public domain? I don't know. I don't read much. We only read the funny or the bad stories on the social media that this was what wrong this guy did and that is what wrong that guy did. We're only pointing fingers at each other. How many appreciation mails do you see? How many there are so many rescues happening. How many rescue messages do you see on social media? You'll only see what's going wrong with us. So that's the workforce we are managing. There are two verbs which are starting to become very contradictory now. One is expending and one is delivery. These are two very important facets of how we work in shipping. So we've done very, very well in the first word. Expending, we've done actually well. We've managed to bring down the workforce. We've managed to optimize. We've managed to increase our turnaround time and reduce turnaround times in ports so that shore leaves are a thing of the past. That's expending. We did everything to make sure that we got closer and closer to getting our registers to look good. But what happened to the delivery? I can't forget, there is this beautiful speech of Roger Federer on the YouTube, where he says that he has the distinction of winning more than 80% of the matches he played. But then he asked the question, do you know what is the percentage of points he won in his life? Any guesses? How much, what is the percentage of points that Roger Federer won on his journey of winning 80% of the matches? He said, I think he says 52 or 54%, that's it. And that's food for thought. How many of us are ready to accept 46% failure in our seafarers? Yes, today he overhauled a machine and it broke down. How many? None in the room, including myself, maybe. I'm championing that cause. That if the great Roger Federer can make a winning life and be the world number tennis player for the record period of time, can falter 46% of the points, then why don't we get down to figuring out how we can increase that 52% and how can we reduce the 46%, rather than using the blame culture as the way to move on. And I know I don't want acceptance here, but I know I've been in this industry for a long time now, and I know it's true. The only way we like to move on and show to our clients that we've been very effective in our approach is get the guy out. There is little or no investment into how we can relaunch that skill which he has just learnt by default or by baptized by fire. So the expending has been wonderful, and the delivery, the expectation is every seminar I attend, zero detention, zero accidents, zero downtime, everything is zero now. And what have we equipped our seafarer with to get to that zero is also zero. Very consistent. Yes, we have had the greatest of conferences, the biggest of people attending, the lawmakers, the administrators, the educators, but sadly, we have not moved, maybe not enough, if I can be as polite. So anyway, so this is my pain point, that we have actually gone, I was just telling somebody over lunch that our model has become wide and thin rather than going narrow and deep. We lack the depth in what we do sometimes. How about having really specialized people to do specialized jobs? Especially in maritime, we mariners think we can do everything starting from HR to IT to, you name the department and a mariner can do it. So we don't believe in specialization. So I'm not just here to tell you what the weather is. So now let's talk about managing this workforce that we're talking about. My personal study, and I'm doing a little bit of a research on this, and I'm almost completing a book on it. I'm trying to do my doctorate on human performance in maritime. And my favorite thing that I like to talk about is the 4 C's, the alphabet C. The 4 C's of what we need to do, what we need to change, and what can help us to get where we want to go. So the first C is competence. We need to understand that the syllabus the bulk of the syllabus that the seafarers are being put through today is still pretty much the same. I would like to see what kind of smart engines, electronic engines, how are we going into technology at the college level? There are a lot of the educators around, but I still think we're far behind in the technology space. We're still looking at we're still 20 years behind. We're still in the trunk call era rather than, the new generation has moved into the ghosting era. And maybe the teaching generation is still in the trunk call era. There is this gap. And we are still believing in these long lectures, whereas the world has moved into bite-sized learning mode. So I still feel that we are lacking in competence, because when we talk to the seafarers, when we go into the investigation mode, we see that there is sometimes a lack of understanding of what was at stake. And it's not just about teaching navigation or engines. we are not including seafarers into the larger scheme of things. What is the impact of what they do? If there is a guy who's intentionally violated MARPOL, what it does, besides just talking about the fine and the closure of the company. We're not hitting that right chord that goes deeper, the narrow and deep that I was talking about. So I think we need to revisit how we can go bite-sized learning and then look at our, I'm not being critical here, but how about thinking of something new? How about, I am seeing nowadays, after finishing your cadetship, the cadet comes back as a third officer almost 2.5 to 3 years after he sailed as a cadet. Tell me which master in this room would like to have a third officer keeping his watch 8 to 12 after a break of 3 years, where he was a cadet. So he's actually not handled responsibility ever in his life, and he still gets a gap of 3 years. Why can't we look at newer models? Why can't we say that while you're doing your cadetship, you start doing your learning modules? Have put your subject into modules. Let him, every time he comes back on leave, let him keep clearing the modules. I'm not saying let him clear second mates. Let him do the modules. And then when he completes his sea time, he can go for his orals or his written whatever. But there should be a way, if he's mastered something already, let him do it now. Let him clear that part. It just makes the process so much faster. And it also keeps him studying and included and involved when he's on his leave, rather than having 3 leaves doing nothing and 1 leave of 3 years where he's only trying to give his exams. So I'm just throwing in an idea that this is how I think we should be looking at modernizing competence, how to get the subject across narrower and deeper. The second C is about culture. I mean, let's take an example of some ship which has gone and anchored 1 mile off the target anchor point in somewhere in Indonesia. What does that do? It immediately puts that guy in jail. What does the company do? And from what we read, put the blame. Why did you do that? Why did you do this? Why is the first reaction not that, come on, let's quickly get the lawyers involved, let's get a psychologist to talk to him, let him get us connected to his family? What's the approach? Is the approach a way to park the blame and move on and let him be in the cell in Indonesia? Or is there going to be an effort that, yes, let's first of all support the seafarer. Let's support his family. Let us get some psychological help. Let us get a lawyer. And let us reassure the guy that don't worry, nothing's going to happen to you. The company stands. You did it for the company. And many a times it is known that even the office knows about things. But when things go wrong, that's when we distance ourselves out of the seafarers and we just leave them to themselves. Just giving them basic, what the law provides is what is given. Why are we not ready to dig in deeper? What was that procedural lapse that the guy went and anchored there? We are always trying to correct the person. I think we have to start making it a rule in our offices. Don't correct the person, correct the process. There is a procedural lapse. Why? I mean, one thing that I kind of practice is keep your vision and mission so clear that even the receptionist of your office should understand that this is what I'm here to do. And I think with the ever-increasing kind of gamut of rules, regulations, and expectations from our seafarers, it's all got jumbled up and lost. So how are we supporting it with our culture, and how are we supporting it with our processes? I think that's a direction that we need to take when we manage our workforce now and beyond. Third C is the cause. Why am I here? What am I doing on this ship? Is it because I didn't get admission in IIT that I landed up in DMET, which is my story? But is it by default, or now that I'm here, let's do something? How much dialogue do we have between the offices and the seafarers? How much are the seafarers involved in a day-to-day discussion say we are rewriting some SMS manual. Is there any input from a seafarer in that manual? Do you think anything from the master's review is going into that manual? Supposed to, you're right. Is it going? I mean, there are a lot of bigwigs sitting out here. I'm not asking your answer. I'm just putting it, I'm just throwing it on the table, take it back, see if we can change things. We're talking about managing the future, right? The future is far more complex than it is today. We're seeing an amazing revolution of technology in shipping and on ships. If we don't correct now, we're going to see many more Dalis, trust me. Dali was not anybody's fault. I stand here and I say that. But how are we preparing and what are we ensuring to do? There's nothing more. There is no other loose wire on any other ship. How much are the seafarers involved in trying to tell the office that what's possible and what's not? Put your hands on your heart and say, how many of your ships are complying with the RESTAs? As long as your paperwork is right, you're absolutely fine. You can go into the inspection. We are not getting in to know why is the compliance not happening. I'm telling you, in today's scenario, if you tell me that all your ships are complying RESTAs, I'm ready to challenge that. I'm ready to challenge it. So what are we doing as an industry? Still cost, cost, cost. Sir, you opened our eyes today. Man hours versus CGT. Efficiency. How about upping the efficiency? So, yes, we can do it maybe with the same manpower, but maybe having better processes, having lesser reportings. Put cameras, see what you want to see. Why do you keep asking me to send you daily, monthly, weekly reports? How many photographs I flow between ship and shore, you'll be amazed to know. And so I am not just talking of one company, I've worked with two, I have friends in many companies, I'm speaking on everybody's behalf. I'm not being critical, I'm just trying to say, can we just get this to do something better, to get a better result? And the last C is about, said competence, culture, cause, and my last favorite C is consistency. Yes, we want 100% consistency, zero this thing, but then what are we doing to achieve that consistency is something that I don't have the answer to this, but I think the essence in our profession, in seafaring, is about consistency. The more we are consistent, the lesser problems we are talking about. And that again, I think a lot of mentoring and coaching kind of a fabric has to be there where, I used to love this in DMET, where the seniors after sailing would come back to the college every time they were in India, go and interact with the first years, go have a drink with them and more. That was a different time where, okay, a little bit of ragging or whatever, it was a lot of fun, but then there was a lot of exchange. And the best of friends were made that time who are in touch even today. And then they would come back with their problems and there would be a lot of coaching, mentee, mentor kind of a relationship, which entered. Even I know so many people, if you really have a good relationship with someone, when you're in trouble on a ship, I know people immediately message or call. Today, thanks to the internet, people are accessible. I think we must promote that a little more in a nice, structured way. Let the seniors be there for the guys, for their juniors. Please, I think the appraisal system is quite disastrous, as it is in every company. I'm being critical, but nobody has the courage to sit in front of his appraisee and tell him, "Bacha, tune ye karna hai better. Tune ye galat." Everything, if the guy is scared, everything is 5 out of 5. And if you tell him that, okay, you're allowed to make a confidential appraisal, it comes to 1 out of 5. And the giggles in the room say that this is true. So what can we do to manage the workforce is get some of these things sorted. And yes, in our individual capacities, if all of us are pulling in the same direction, I'm sure we'll get there. We will win this race. We will have a better maritime ecosystem to live in. This trade is super important. Every time a COVID happened or the Hormuz is happening now, we know how important, how critical it is, how important shipping is to mankind. So if we can, if we align with this, then my humble request to you is please try and see how we can help our seafarers. Every time a seafarer is in distress, let's not get down to spreading news on WhatsApp. Let us see how we can reach out to his family, his friends, his batchmates. What can we do constructive rather than just passing news on? And how we can help the community to grow in a positive way. With that little wish, I'll say thank you.